Welcome to Samvadh. I am Vani Raju in conversation with Ms. Aarti Rajratnam. And today's topic is mindful pixels, that is taming the temptation of screen time in adults. Earlier, I would never leave home without my wallet and keys. But now, it is my phone. I can forget anything but my phone. This has become the case with everybody. Welcome, ma'am. How did we get here, ma'am? Could you throw some light?
So at some point, it's not easy to answer how we got here. Just that we need to understand why phones or screens are so addictive. Why have we started using them? They've been engineered to mimic the mind. So let's assume that you have a thought in your mind. You're just casually sitting down thinking, and every say 10 or 15 seconds, the thought will naturally change to something else. It may be connected or completely disconnected to what you were thinking earlier, but it will be that. And we call this mind wandering. It's the default mode of the brain. And all of us are capable of this mind wandering all through the day, which is why focus requires effort. So this is basically how the brain is engineered. And when screens came in, attention managers and AI was optimized to help understand how to get this mimic or this aspect of the brain to be mimicked onto a screen. So let's assume you're scrolling through and you notice, earlier it was just reading articles. Now it's videos which are more attractive, the reels or the shorts or these kind of things. So you look at something and it's already giving you suggestions of 15 other things that you can watch. So then you have about 5 minutes. You say, okay, I think I can watch this one. And then the next one will pop up, the next one.
We don't know where the time goes. It could be sometimes hours together.
Yes.
What we start as a distraction becomes an addiction.
Yes. And that's how the brain works. Distractions lead to addictions. And we need to understand the mechanism here. Why do I distract myself?
If you ask me my personal feelings when I don't want to feel the big feelings, I'm not able to regulate it and feel it or handle it, I usually go on to distract myself either with reels or content or binge watching, just to not feel the big feelings. That is one of the reasons, at least personally, that's how I distract myself.
And it can happen in many ways. Now in your situation, you're talking about emotions. For another person, it could just be boredom that they need distraction from. I don't know what to do with my time. I'm not able to engage with my friends, or everybody else is busy, so let me just watch this, okay? Or I don't have any other hobbies that are worth indulging in, or I have to make the effort of driving down to, say, the tennis court or somewhere. So I say, okay, what is easier than doing all this? I can just watch this. So anything that's...
And sometimes people like me and maybe you, that we have to calm down, settle down and not think about work, because I like to work all the time, and sometimes I have to, that is a form of a relaxation to watch something for me.
So which is why it's again very important to go back on why am I using this. Now if I'm using it predominantly for distraction, then I may need to check it, because distraction is the gateway for addiction. As opposed to when you're using it for relaxation. For example, I might just go on to music videos. I'm someone who loves music videos. I would go on to 1 or 2 songs because I just want to relax in between something. Or I would watch an educational video and then I would go back, because I have other hobbies. I still play sport, I still read. So I don't really need to use my gadget. And when it's big emotions, I usually go back into myself and reflect, or I reach out to a friend who's able to mirror back to me what I'm feeling. In the original days or pre-gadget days, if I were to put it that way, in a very nostalgic way, we did do that. But now with gadgets, we expect this small screen to take over just about every role in our life that there is no person for. immediately, may not able to access them immediately. So in that sense, what is the most common addiction? Depending on the person, it's either online shopping or it's binge watching, because these are easy to access. We don't need to actually drive all the way, get a ticket, stand in a queue, none of those things. We can just access entire seasons of a series or some kind of a movie or whatever, just like that. And then there is the online shopping, which makes me feel a dopamine high, because I do, and unfortunately a lot of self-help information is calling this self-care. Like, if you treat yourself to something, this is self-care. But where do you draw the line is really the problem, because I know people who've bought boxes and boxes of things which they've not even opened yet, because they bought it on a whim. So this is where this becomes a very destructive or a dysregulated pattern.
How is this affecting relationships?
Anything that starts with a dysregulated self will naturally affect relationships, because there are three types of focus that we need to look at. One is inner focus. Am I able to look within me, regulate my thoughts, emotions, desires, etc., and also focus on my thoughts and take it towards constructive action? If I don't have that level of focus, I won't have the outer focus where I'm able to pick up cues from my environment, understand them and act accordingly. When these two focuses, inner and outer focus, are not in line, I can never be other focused, which is I will never be able to respond to a question that you're asking me without having to go onto my phone probably and find out how should I answer her question, kind of thing. So in our world right now, with gadgets taking over such a big space, we've actually lost inner, outer and other focus, which is why I feel it's about time we started restricting ourselves from this excessive usage.
I've noticed, and probably we've done it too, in a family, when we're all sitting together, anywhere you go, in a restaurant, you don't see people having conversation. Everybody is on their gadgets when they're sitting together. Also, let's say if I'm sitting with my child, I'm all the time checking in with my phone if there is a message. I'm not completely present, and I'm sure this affects the relationship, because a child, if they don't see the parent being completely present when they're talking, then you're losing the connection again. So relationships are really getting affected. That seems to be the major cause for today's gadget addiction.
We are relational beings. As human beings, we're very relational beings, and since we are hyper connected now but disconnected from the loved ones in our life, none of us are actually able to experience honest intimacy. And when I say intimacy, I'm not talking physical intimacy. I'm talking about the emotional intimacy that keeps relationships going. Now, we can have very close friends with whom we have this ability to be ourselves. We don't need to do that. But gadgets have actually changed that ability to feel intimacy in a lot of people. And when that intimacy is missing, people experience a vacuum. Right? That vacuum is what we are filling with the distraction, and that distraction is what is becoming an addiction. So what will really be the way back to ourselves, because that's what is required, is to start reducing anything that is distractive. In that sense, it could be a series that I'm watching, it could be YouTube videos or whatever media that I'm using, to set very strict rules. Now, for example, I noticed when Facebook came in so many years back, I would use it for the whole day because it was so exciting. And then I realized that I'd spent sometimes 6 to 8 hours on that, though there were no likes, nobody was watching my post, nothing, but I would there was this meme at that time that says, this app is like a refrigerator, the same old food is inside, but you keep opening to check if there's something exciting, right? Though it's funny, that's what I was doing with it. So I restricted myself to 30 seconds in the morning, 30 seconds. I post once a day. There are still several followers, several hundred followers who go on to the post every day, but I don't engage with anyone. If I really want to engage with someone, it has to be that I pick up the phone or go in person, meet them, and then interact with them. I found a huge change because I no longer wanted to use the app. This was one change that I saw in my life. The second is that I got an app where binge watching was possible, downloaded onto my phone because it came free with something else. It was not something I paid for. After I watched one series, which was not even a very nice one, I realized that my mind was all the time, even when I was not engaging with that content, my mind was ruminating about the thought that was there. So I was thinking about, what would happen the next episode, who would die, that kind of thing. So I decided, okay, this is an app that I need to remove from my phone. Right? The moment I removed that, my reading went up by almost 80%. This was the second behavior change that I saw. The third was the shopping aspect of it. I have a very strict rule, whether it's physical shopping or online shopping. If I'm attracted to something, I put it in the shopping cart, but don't buy it for 48 hours. At the end of 48 hours, if I still like it, that's when I buy it. And this changed my behaviors because it moved me from instant gratification to delayed gratification. And in the delayed gratification part, you really realize that you don't need all of this because you're able to self-soothe and self-regulate much faster when you don't have an external crutch, which is a distraction.
So the relation between parents and children is getting really affected. When you're so addicted or when you're so busy on gadgets, sometimes it could be for work related or sometimes it is for distraction. And then you expect your children not to be on gadgets. How is that going to work out if you're not able to mirror what you're talking about and what you're expecting from kids?
There's a recent study that says the number of behavior problems go up in children when parents are using gadgets more than they need to. And why this is difficult is because children know that the parent is not listening to them. So let's assume that I want my parents' attention for something and the parents say, yeah, I'm watching, I'm listening to you, but they're still there. Then the child realizes that I can only throw a tantrum to get attention here. So behavior problems have definitely gone up. And like you rightly said, modeled behavior. Gadget usage is a very modeled behavior. I had both my parents reading all the time. And though I was a very late reader, I started reading only when I was 14. So school was hell for me as it would go. But though I started reading very late, I'm a voracious reader now. If you really see, when I pack my bags, even if I've not packed my clothes, I would have packed books. That's the kind of person that I am. So a lot of these things are model behavior. So if I need to have a behavior in my child, I need to have it in me first. I can't not have it and then expect my child to suddenly have these new changes in their behavior.
Thank you so much, Aarti ma'am. I hope we make these behavioral changes, if not all at once, one step at a time, and make a difference to ourselves and our relations around us.